This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses.
So, up until very recently, I had never played a BIGSBY trem. Now, this chunk of metal actually has quite an interesting story, and I wanted to share some of it with you. It was invented by a guy whose second name was, in fact, Bigsby, Paul Bigsby. He used to make motorcycles and stuff, and because of his interest in motorcycles, he ran into a guitarist at the time, Mel Travis. And this guy had a guitar with a Kaufman vibrola on it, I think, or tremolo system. And Kaufman, I think, are the first people to ever put a patent on a tremolo system. It had worn out, and the guy said to him, "Look, could you maybe fix this?" And he said, "I can fix anything." And then I think, basically he invented the thing. I think this original spring came from a motorcycle, and he built a mold out of pear wood and then cast it. So it's a big chunk of metal essentially. In 1946, this guy actually made a solid body guitar for the same guy, I think, Mel Travis, and the headstock on it should look a little bit familiar to you. So I think essentially Paul Bigsby started making trem units for Gibson, and he was initially friends with Leo Fender until in about 1954 Leo Fender came out with a guitar which had a headstock which looked kind of familiar. They fell out after that, and he stopped making the Bigsby tremolo for Telecaster guitars. He also built tremolos for Gretsch, and he sold the company eventually to Ted McCarty in about 67, something like that, when he was in bad health. And Ted McCarty, obviously the president of Gibson, or retired president of Gibson, would later sell the company to Gretsch in about 1999. So a really rich kind of history, this piece of gear. The thing is, I don't think it's actually that effective as a tremolo arm. The actual kind of play that you get in it is not even a full tone if you depress it all the way down. Now, if you were doing that with a Floyd Rose, you'd obviously know about it. And even with what Leo Fender came up with in, well, it would have been around 1954, I think is a much superior in terms of, you know, you can get more out of it. So it's really weird to me that they actually brought out a pitch pedal, a company called Game Changer Audio did, which is supposedly based on the BIGSBY. And presumably what that pedal does is it drops your pitch by less than a tone, and it can increase it by a bit anyway. So you get like a very light wobble from it. You do have a lot of metal, and I guess that might have an impact on tone. But in general, this is a licensed one, so I don't know if like original BIGSBYs or official BIGSBYs are much different. You let me know your thoughts in the comments. But to me, it seems like quite a lot of metal, quite a lot of weight to add to a guitar for essentially not much wobble. And what you want with a trem unit is a bit of wobble, isn't it? And a bit of stability. Now we've also got a few kind of, we don't have friction points here, I guess, because it's like round, but we've also then got a tunematic bridge, so that's a friction point which is not necessarily ideal, and you'd want to have a really well lubricated nut, obviously. But I don't know, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are you a fan of the BIGSBY? Have you ever modified a guitar to put one on? You see some Telecasters with them on, you know, which presumably once you take it off you end up with 2 screw holes, and some like vintage guitars, that would be a thing that potentially decreases the value slightly. Whether that's a thought. I don't know, have you ever had a BIGSBY? Are you a BIGSBY fan? For me, yeah, it's like David Beebe said, it's a lot of hassle for not much wowie woo woo stuff. Let's have a little listen and a play. So you're not really even getting, you can just about get a tone. But by that point, I don't know how. So what you're really looking at is something that can do a bit of that wobble. I don't really feel like that's necessarily worth it, is it? So maybe people are finding tonal benefit in the BIGSBY because you've got a big chunk of metal kind of attached to your strings and guitar, sort of like a large tailpiece, maybe that sort of thing where you get a bit more resonance, a bit more jangle. Is that a thing? Maybe. But in terms of... yeah, I don't really get what the hype is about, if there is any hype, but maybe I guess it's the fact that it is an aftermarket thing that you can add, though for me personally I don't think it's the sort of thing that I would want to add to a guitar, but I guess it is a thing that you could if you just needed to have a smidge of wobble. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is a BIGSBY worth it? Has it been, I don't know, it just seems to me it's got a really cool history, and the history to me is even more interesting than what you can actually do with it. It's just, even the basic Fender Strat trem to me seems to be quite a bit more useful. Sorry, Paul. Feel free to like and subscribe if you want. I just wanted to share a little bit of that history of the BIGSBY trem. I found it really interesting. Hopefully you might too, but yeah. much else to talk about there, is it?